There's a strange kind of guilt that creeps in when you realize you want something different than you used to. A guilt that tells you you're flaky, inconsistent, unreliable. A guilt that whispers that because you once fought so hard for something, a career, a role, a goal, you are somehow obligated to stay loyal to it. Even if it no longer fits. Even if it's slowly draining the life out of you, especially after you failed, been laid off or burned out. The guilt intensifies. You tell yourself, I have to prove it was worth it. I have to redeem the investment. I had to double down and show that I'm not a quitter. And in that inner pressure, you stay, chasing a version of success that no longer resonates. Stay pushing through in spaces that no longer feel like home. Stay convincing yourself you want things you secretly outgrew, because you think that pivoting would mean you lost. That changing your mind would mean you failed harder. That choosing a new direction would make all the years you spent on the old meaningless. But here's the truth. You are allowed to change directions. You are allowed to outgrow dreams that once fit you. You are allowed to listen to the quiet shifts happening inside you. You are allowed to honor the truth of who you are now, even if it disrupts the plans you made when you were someone else. Changing direction isn't betrayal. It's bravery, it's honesty. It's wisdom, because what's the alternative? Staying locked into a life that no longer fits. Performing passion you don't feel. Shrinking yourself to maintain an old narrative. You are not here to live a life that makes sense on paper, but feels hollow in your chest. You are here to live a life that expands you, that roots you, that calls you deeper into the truest version of yourself. And sometimes, often, that life requires letting go of what made sense before. It requires admitting I've changed. It requires forgiving yourself for not being static. It requires trusting that honoring who you are now is more important than defending who you were then. Growth demands pivots. Wisdom demands pivots. Aliveness demands pivots. The world may not always understand. People may question you, doubt you, whisper about you. Let them. Their confusion is not your burden. Their timeline is not your assignment. Their understanding is not your permission slip. You get to change without their approval. You get to choose again, not because you failed, but because you were evolving. And evolution is not an apology. It's a triumph. But here's what's hard about changing directions. It feels like starting over. It feels like walking into a room where you no longer know the rules. It feels like being a beginner again, vulnerable and exposed. It feels like trading the comfort of certainty for the terror of possibility. It feels like laying down the armor of I know who I am and picking up the trembling honesty of I'm figuring it out, and that vulnerability. It's uncomfortable, but it's also alive. It's also sacred. It's also where real freedom lives. Staying stuck is comfortable, but it's death by slow suffocation. Changing directions is terrifying, but it's breathing again. It's coming back to life. It's rediscovering yourself, not as a fixed identity, but as a living, growing soul. And yes, it takes courage. Courage to admit that you want something different now. Courage to risk looking inconsistent. Courage to walk away from what's working in other people's eyes, but not in your own heart. Courage to trust that the deep, quiet longing inside you is reason enough to pivot, even if you can't yet explain it to anyone else. So if you're standing at the edge of a new direction right now, trembling, doubting, questioning, let me say it plain, it's okay to choose again. It's okay to want something else. It's okay to say that dream served me once, but I'm ready for a new one. You're not betraying your past. You're building on it. You're taking everything you learned, everything you earned, everything you survived, and carrying it into the next chapter. Nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. You are not erasing your story. You are expanding it. You are adding depth. You are adding dimension. You are writing a narrative that says, I'm not trapped by old versions of myself. I am free to evolve. I am free to pivot. I am free to move toward what's truer now. And that freedom, that's the real success. Not the pristine resume, not the linear climb, not the illusion of consistency. The freedom to tell the truth about who you are becoming, and what you want from this wild and precious life you've been given. That's success, that's wholeness. That's where real fulfillment begins. So take the leap, take the turn. Take the hand of the future you've been secretly dreaming about, and say, okay, I'm willing to risk uncertainty, willing to face misunderstanding, willing to build again from a truer place, willing to bet on yourself, not the past version of yourself, but the current breathing, changing brilliant version of you who refuses to settle for a life that looks good but feels wrong. You are allowed to change directions. You are allowed to move toward joy. You are allowed to pursue what lights you up, even if it doesn't make sense yet, especially if it doesn't make sense yet. Because dreams that fit the soul often start as whispers that don't fit the map. And you are not here to follow the old map. You are here to make your own. When you give yourself permission to change directions, you step into a sacred responsibility to build a life that honors the person you are becoming, not the person you were forced to be, not the person you pretended to be, not the person you thought you had to be to survive, but the real living evolving you. And building that life is not a one-time decision. It's 1,000 small decisions. It's the daily work of choosing yourself in a world that keeps trying to sell someone else's version of success. It's the quiet rebellion of asking yourself harder, deeper questions every single day. What actually brings me alive? What kind of energy feels nourishing, not depleting? What kind of environments honor my strengths without punishing my sensitivity? What kind of people expand my courage instead of shrinking my dreams? What kind of rhythms respect both my ambition and my humanity? These are not questions you can answer overnight. They are questions you live into. Questions that shape your new direction, one step at a time, one brave breath at a time. And here's what's important. When you're building a life that honors who you are now, you must be willing to let it look different than you once imagined. You must be willing to lay down the blueprints that were handed to you by culture, by family, by fear. You must be willing to say, just because it made sense before doesn't mean it's right for me now. Just because everyone else is chasing it doesn't mean it's mine to chase. Just because it's easier to stay doesn't mean it's braver. You must be willing to disappoint some people. You must be willing to be misunderstood. You must be willing to trust your inner compass more than the external applause. You must be willing to move, even when you can't articulate every step. To people who demand clarity, you don't owe them, because the truth is, the life you are building is not a performance. It's a homecoming. It's not about objects. It's about alignment. It's not about speed. It's about truth, and truth often requires slow, messy, non-linear building. It requires patience when you want certainty. It requires tenderness when you want to armor up. It requires faith when you want proof. Faith that even if you can't see the full picture yet, honoring your own becoming is always the right choice. Always, even if it means walking away from something that once felt like everything. Even if it means facing blank pages without knowing how to fill them yet. Even if it means sitting in uncomfortable, liminal spaces longer than you would like. Because those spaces, the uncertain, undefined, unglamorous middle spaces, are where the roots grow. They're where your integrity deepens. They're where your self-trust is fortified. They're where you stop living on autopilot and start living awake. So don't rush through this. Don't rush to slap a neat label on your pivot. Don't rush to manufacture a shiny after, just to make your transition more palatable to others. Stay in the messy middle long enough to actually hear yourself again. Stay long enough to build something real. Stay long enough to let the new dream take shape organically, honestly. From the inside out, not the outside in. Because this new life you're building, it's not about erasing your past. It's about integrating it. It's about carrying forward the wisdom, the resilience, the hard-earned clarity, while releasing the expectations, the fear, the self-abandonment. It's about saying, I honor where I've been, and I'm still free to go somewhere new. I honor who I was, and I'm still free to become more. That's maturity, that's evolution. That's wholeness. You are allowed to have chapters that contradict each other. You are allowed to have seasons that don't make sense to anyone but your own soul. You are allowed to have dreams that shift as you shift. You are allowed to build a life that makes you feel expansive, even if it looks confusing to people who prefer straight lines. Because your life is not a resume. It's a living, breathing, growing work of art and growth. Real growth is rarely linear. It loops, it spirals. It circles back, it reimagines. It reinvents, it dares to tell a new story when the old one no longer fits. And you are a living, breathing, growing being. You are allowed to outgrow old dreams. You are allowed to outgrow old environments. You are allowed to outgrow old versions of yourself. That's not instability, that's aliveness. That's not flakiness, that's freedom. And when you fully step into that freedom, the freedom to change directions without shame, without apology, without self-betrayal, everything begins to shift. Your energy changes, your choices change. Your circle changes, your definition of success changes. You stop chasing what you're supposed to want and start building what actually feels right. In your body, in your mind. In your spirit, you stop asking, will they approve, and start asking, does this honor my truth? You stop living like you're on probation and start living like you belong. Because you belong to yourself first, foremost. Always, and from that belonging, you will build things that are not just successful, but sustainable careers that don't burn you out. Relationships that don't drain your light. Days that don't feel like survival, but like real, breathing, honest living. That's what's possible when you give yourself the gift of pivoting, when you say yes to the quieter, wiser voice inside you that says, it's okay to want different things now. It's okay to change the plan. It's okay to reroute. It's okay to listen to the pull in your gut instead of the pressure in your mind. It's okay to leave behind a dream you outgrew without guilt. It's okay to build a life that surprises even you, because the point of this life was never to follow the map perfectly. It was to stay awake to your own becoming. It was to keep choosing truth over comfort. It was to keep choosing growth over approval. It was to keep choosing yourself, even when the world offers easier paths, paved in validation but empty of real joy. So today, if you are standing at a crossroads, tired, scared, uncertain, know this: you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to tell yourself the truth. You just have to be willing to trust that your desire for something different is not a sign you failed, it's a sign you're alive. And aliveness is the real goal. Aliveness is the real success. Aliveness is the real prize. So honor it, move toward it. Protect it, build your new life around it. Because you right now, exactly as you are worthy of a life that fits the person you are. Becoming not just the person you used to be. And changing directions, it's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a better one. One where you are not trapped by old versions of yourself. One where you are not apologizing for your growth. One where you are free to dream, to build, to become again and again and again. Keep going, your future is waiting for the braver. Freer you to arrive, and you're already on your way.